We're continuing Perek Gimel Halacha Beis. How is a country judged, and how is the world judged? V'chein, the Rambam states, Medina, a country that its sins are greater, Reuben, on its merits. Miadi Avedas, immediately it's lost, and its people die. Shenem, as we find by Anshe Sodom, because the crimes of Sodom and Amorah were very loud, and they caused the punishment. And that's why their country was overturned, because a nation whose sins are greater is lost. So too the entire world. If their sins, the entire world, if their sins were greater than their merits, miyad hein nishchosen, the entire world is destroyed. Now the Rambam is very careful to explain his language. By a person it says mace, which is a person dies. And by a nation it says is lost. It's lost among all the other nations, just like Rome was lost. And as far as the world it goes, destroyed. Shenema, it says in Bereshit, Vayar Hashem kirabo odom ba'oretz, and he says before the Mabul that the man was very wicked in the land, and then it says the land was destroyed. And the Mishnah explains that how do you judge a nation? First, you judge every individual in every city. Now, those whose merits are greater than their sins is called a tzaddik. Then you judge the entire nation. If the collective sins of all of its people are more than their merits, it's destroyed. But the tzaddikim are always saved, even though they are found amongst sinners. As we find by Avraham Avinu in his prayer on Sodom, Bereshit 18:23, will you, the Creator, cause to be gathered up the righteous together with the wicked? Thus we see that even though the decision to destroy Sodom, still the tzaddikim would have been saved. If there is merit for that state more than its sins, however, then it's considered a righteous state. Now, Kodesh Baruch Hu then goes after the individual as opposed to the entire nation, going to their sins, and the individual dies v'risha. After we judge the entire country, we go, and now he's saying the order. We said first of all people, then the nation, and here he's taking the sum total of the sins. Then you measure all the nations together, the entire world. If they are full of sin, even a nation that has more merits than its sins will be destroyed. Different than tzaddikim. But the tzaddikim themselves, the individual righteous will be saved. As it happened in the Mabul, in the generation of the flood, the old world was destroyed and Noah was saved. And if they have more merits, then the world is saved. Even countries that have more sins than their merits, and only the wicked, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes them individually. The Halacha Mishnah cites Kedushin 40b, that a person should always see himself, as we mentioned earlier in the case of Mishnah, that one, as if he is half meritus and half liable, and the entire world is half meritus and half liable. If he does one sin, he causes the entire world, himself and the entire world, to be judged negatively. And according to him, the order of the din is the individual, then the nation, and then the whole world. So he asks the question, if at the end we judge the whole world, what difference does it make when we measure the merits and the sins of every nation in the interim? Because we only said that the individuals get are we saved. But a nation that's righteous won't be saved if the whole world will be destroyed. And the answers with two different answers. One, that the world is found in a state of half and half, and therefore it shouldn't be destroyed. But still, in that situation, a nation that has more negatives than positives will be lost, and those nations who have more merits than debits will remain. That's one answer. Even if the world is 50-50, that's one situation. Or even if the world is completely liable, still a nation that has a majority of merits will be saved. And if the world is truly meritorious, a nation that is not by itself has sins will be destroyed, because the judgment of every nation stands by itself and it's not dependent upon the world at large. So let me answer the question: why do we have to measure the entire world? If the entire world is full of sin, and a nation that's righteous will be saved, or vice versa, when we judge the entire world of emeritus, but a nation that's a Russia will be destroyed, what then? Why are we judging the entire world? And the answer is the difference being only, again, where a nation that's half and half, where do they place them? You place them with those nations which are going to be destroyed because the entire world is has a negative on the scale, and there won't be the action of Rav Chesed or Mate Klape Chesed. However, when the nation itself has more merits, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts with it with Midah of Rav Chesed. Furthermore, according to the Lashon the Rambam, a Medina is lost, the world is destroyed. There's another way to answer the question, is whether the entire world will be destroyed or whether only the nation will be lost. And that's why he says destruction of the entire world depends upon the entire world. But the Mishnah Melech asks a question: why is the Gemara in Kedushin doesn't mention that his actions cause the nation to be meritorious? Since in every nation there's also a din. It says only the Gemara explains only himself and the entire world. Why doesn't he mention the place where he's living? And he explains, like the first answer of the Lechem Mishnah, that only when the entire world is found to be in a state of neither meritorious or liable, there is a difference for the Medina. Therefore, if first he has to make sure that the whole world and is meritorious, then even that Medina, that his nation, which even though it remains technically neither meritorious or liable, will be saved. But if that nation is anyway a nation which deserves destruction, it won't be saved anyway. The Mishnah Melech cites the Marit in his drushes, who explains it, and we can't go into it at this point. Peirush HaMeir asked a question on the Lechem Mishnah. The Lechem Mishnah explained, miyad, that he explained that this means when he dies, we see Rishonim that stay alive, that means the world to come. And what the Rambam says further, when you measure mitzvahs and sins, as they're talking about the din olam hazeh. So how can he say that we're talking about olam haba if he continues where it says, to begin with, he said that a person is judged about losing his olam haba. When we go to the nations, you can't say the nations judged about olam haba because there's no olam haba to a nation. Therefore, he explains that we're not talking about Rosh Hashanah. That there each individual's person's sins are measured, and the nations and the world. That Rambam is only talking Halacha Gimel. Here he's talking about when there's a specific incident where the sins of man come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like we had by Storm. At that point, everything is measured, or at the time of the Mabul. If the sins are greater, then he will die immediately. And that would be literal, it would refer to the man himself. So to the nation, if the sins are greater, it will be lost, as it says by Storm. I turn the page. That the cries that have come to the heavenly throne from Sodom and Amorah is very great. And I will go down to see if it's actually the way the cries are coming out. And that's when he judges the world, even though it's not Rosh Hashanah. Furthermore, we can explain that the cries of that girl that was mentioned in Rashi, that she gave charity to an Oni, and they put on her honey so that the bees would bite her to death, her soul came before Shemayim. The Hashem says, let me go down and see. And that's when it happened. So too the entire world, as it says in the Ramabel, he saw that the people are very wicked. That it came to a point, it came to Shemayim, it wasn't Rosh Hashanah. And when the entire world was found lacking, it was entirely destroyed. And it's not dependent on a specific time in the year. Any time when something Chas v'Shalom like that happens, then we are judged. Furthermore, the Peirush HaMeir explains that the Rambam first stated Hashem Yisborach weighs only sins and merits of the person, and they die immediately. And he's not talking about Rosh Hashanah. And with this, we can explain the Rambam, the difficulty the Rae had with the Rambam. That many Rishoyim live long, because we're not talking about Rosh Hashanah. That Rosh is Nechon Alta Lamovas Miyad. That on Rosh Hashanah he's judged to die immediately, whether it means the lessening of the years of his life, as we learned earlier, or Olam Habo. It's talking about where the actions of the person, his evil actions, go up to heaven. This is what it says in the Psukim. In Shmois 22, it mentions that a widow and an orphan you should not torment. If you shall torment them, if they shall cry out to me, I will hear them. And I will become angry, and I will destroy. And so too, when somebody takes away from a poor man his coat as a mortgage, as a collateral for the debt, and he doesn't give it back, it says when the poor man will yell out from his pain, from his frostbite, and I will have compassion. I will listen because he has HaKadosh Baruch Hu has compassion. That we have to be careful that when we do actions, that we should know that at that point, Chas v'Shalom, there's a special judgment taking place. Thus, according to the Peirush HaMeir, the din Yom Adin has no specific time. What Rambam is talking about is when the actions themselves cause a specific decision-making process to begin. Now, Rambam tells us something very important, that the reckoning is according to the deeds and not according to the amount. How is this measured? It's not according to the merits and the sins, but rather how significant they are. There is merits that counteracts many sins. As it says in Malachim, Halachiyah ben Yerovam ben Nevot, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu found in him a special, unique mitzvah that took that protected him, and therefore he was not liable to the death penalty. Yesh omish v'keneged kamas chuyos, vice versa. As Hashem, their sins to counteract many merits shenema, as it says in Kehelas v'choite echod yeruv v'toiva haramay, that one sin can at times cause one to lose many good deeds that one has done. It's on the page. Ve'ein shoiklin, one cannot measure el b'dato shel keil deus. You can only measure with the knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning that we can't do that. As the Rabbi Rov says, if we would know know all that the Rabbi Shalom knows, we would act exactly like the Rabbi Shalom. He is the only one who knows how to measure merit versus sin. Now, the concept of measurement is a simile to a scale. You put something in a scale and measure it. And that's why it says measuring. But we find it many times in the Gemara. That's the way they didn't have scales like we have electronic scales. But in any case, it means the scale that was used throughout the generations.